Kerala was declared as the first baby-friendly state in the world. Kochi was the first baby-friendly city. It is a long process. It started in 1992 for promoting, protecting, and supporting breastfeeding activities. So after 10 years, you can see a report from BBC News. India state wins baby-friendly award. Kerala became the first state baby-friendly state in the world. It's a moment of great pride and glory. And Governor Sikandar Bhatt at that time inaugurated the program in presence of the Health Minister at that time, P. Shankaran. It was a great achievement for IAP Kerala at that time. And as I already mentioned, ideas BFH at that time it was called BFHI, protect, promote, and support breastfeeding, prohibit any kind of use of infant milk substitute and infant food. This is a test of which we followed at that time. This is proposed by UNICEF, and even today, almost all points we are following. The only difference is that some more points added. Otherwise, all these points it is still there, but we added some more points. So, first state in the world, but now what is the situation? It is a board we kept in our medical college issue in 2000 during our declaration of the medical college as the baby-friendly hospital. So Kerala slips in baby-friendly state. It's a news all over. You can see that Kerala, which topped the list in the exclusive breastfeeding 2002, is now there at the 9th slot. You can see in last line, you can see that it is fall to 53% across India. It is in Kerala it's 53%, and across India it is 46.4. So it is very, very bad situation. And here again you can see Indian average is 7 to 52, but Kerala fall down again. You can see the NFH 3 showing around 57, but NHF showing again further fall around 55 or 53%. So that much of reduction in exclusive breastfeeding babies in Kerala. It's a state far in front of all other health indexes. Education status. I think it is very ashamed from the part of the Kerala. That is why IAP came with the genuine program. It is a study from our own state, Kottayam Medical College and Ernakulam Medical, prevalence of and determinants of exclusive breastfeeding among urban mothers in central Kerala. Here you can see on average, around 20% of mothers are giving feeding to the babies. There are so many reasons they mentioned about the medical problem, job-related problem, opposition from families. So many things I mentioned, but average the breastfeeding rate you can see around 21.9% only. And you can see the 2019-20 National Family Health Survey. You can see around 53.3% children under 6 months of age exclusively breastfeeding. I think 50% of the mothers are not feeding, exclusively not feeding their babies. It's very bad. We know there are so many benefits of breastfeeding. I am not going to detail, but there are so many medical allergic skin disease, ADD, and skin disease, respiratory, so many other benefits. You can see, I am not going again further, but there are so many benefits of human milk when compared to animal milk and infant formula. But one thing I want to show, anti-infective properties in this corona pandemic, it is present in human milk, it is absent in animal milk, and it is absent in infant formula. So that thing we have to keep in mind. And colostrum, it is described as the first vaccination after birth. It's highly antibody rich, IgA rich, growth factors, many white cells it is there. There's a false belief that it is something bad, so people used to discard it also. It is actually the first vaccination for any child. And also, our breast milk is species specific, but it is baby specific for. So term baby will get the term mother's mother, and the preterm baby will get preterm baby's mother. I think there are so many neonatologists there. I think they will discuss it later. Again, identity of breast milk is so much benefit to the baby, mother, family, and hospital and society. But I want to point out two important things. One is anti-infective properties, especially during this COVID season. Second one is how it affects our growth and development and intelligence. So it contains so many immunoglobulin, cell lymphoid cells, lactoferrin, lysosome, cytokines, oligosaccharides, growth factors, PABA, and so many other things are there to make it a very, very immune protective to our baby. It is a liquid gold. It is described as a liquid gold. How breast milk could pass among along COVID-19 immunity. Even after taking the vaccination also, they found to be high antibody transmitting the body. And after the infection also, high antibodies transmitting through the breast milk. So produce high enough level that the antibodies are secreted by their breast milk. So it is giving protectivity against COVID-19 immunity. So anti-infective, anti-inflammatory, and immunomodulatory properties of breast milk will protect to an extent about this one. The breastfeeding and COVID-19 from nutrition and immunity. During 2003 studies, SARS epidemic in 2003, the lactofferrin interact with the heparin sulfate glycosan and glycan cell receptors, and it is giving protection against SARS virus. It is well studied. And lactofferrin also been shown to be block ACE2 receptor, which is the main factor, main binding site for the coronavirus. So it studied very early in 2003 itself, the COVID infection will be to an extent protected from breastfeeding. Oligosaccharides in human milk serve as both as direct barrier to pathogen and also act as a prebiotic. And we know very well there is all the binding capacity of oligosaccharide will protect against the HIV, rotavirus, pox virus. Similarly, it may protect from the COVID virus also. So breastfeeding and COVID, the WHO recommends breastfeeding for a mother with a suspect or confirmed COVID cases. No conclusive evidence so far about transmission of virus through the breast milk. Mothers should take all the precautions, then they have to feed. There are so many confusion whether lactating mother can take injection, pregnant woman can injection. There are so many controversy, but there is no controversy regarding whether a pregnant woman, lactating woman can give breast milk to the baby or not. It's very clear cut. In case of positive mother, keep baby 6 feet away from the mother after feeding. So there are so many diseases prevented by this one: diarrhea, otitis media, NEC, sepsis, infant botulism, IDDM. So such a so many anti-infective factors there. And we are all talking about the first rank A plus everything nowadays. But breastfeeding is the best method to improve your IQ. IQ points are higher, 8 times higher, better cognition, high visual development, 30 times more DHA in cow's milk. There are so many advertisements regarding DHA in so many food supplements. Rich in oligosaccharide, we already mentioned the importance of the oligosaccharide and their importance in neuronal synapses. So in the world, in the universe, all animals give breastfeeding to their babies except these human beings. All others are giving breastfeeding to this one. And here I can see the satisfying face of a mother giving her baby breastfeeding. Here you can see what they are artificial smile on their face, but here I can see satisfaction from a mother or the mother's face. It's a story of a baby of Smita, not enough milk. Grandmother wanted to give extra food. System extension with a normal limits. Baby died at the age of 2 months. You can see severe Kachex baby. This baby is from Cherai. And they are given this baby food. It is 3,000 rupees for 400 gram at that time. So this is the problem. This is a which is similar as we had 3 deaths around 3-4 years back. And it is another baby, a middle class family, because they had to give another infant substitute so early at 3 months. By 5 months, you can see the situation. This kosher card again, this baby also expired. So there are so many problems with the formula feeding. So Kerala ranking 9th or 6th, you can see here the rate is around 53.2, and so I think it is the right time to revamp because this is too late. We have done it in 2020, 2002. Some more activities are done after that, but somehow we cannot keep the standard. So at least after 19 years, we are doing it mother and baby friendly hospital initiative with the help of IAP, NNF, KFOG, and Nursing Association, Hospital Management. Of course, all our government, NHM, and all our UNICEF, and also all the other groups giving profuse support us. I would like to thank all the government officials for their support and all the encouragement. And also, we are planning, we already discussed all this training of nurses we are done, guidelines we even get to all the hospitals and correspondence branches of IAP. We made a group of evaluators and we are planning for surprise visit certification with the government approval. And again, so promotion of breastfeeding one part and the promotion of the baby food is another market. I think there is separate talk on IMS Act and everything. So We are following majority of government guidelines with the support of UNICEF and hope that we can declare Kerala as the MBFI state by the end of 2021 or later. But most important thing is that we have to maintain it. That is why Dr. Srihari and Amjit came with a very wonderful program. It is not a one-day program. It is a going on program. We have to sustain it. That is very important. Starting any program may be simple, but we have to sustain it. That is the idea behind all this 6 hours class, and it's an ongoing program. And once again, I thank you all of you for your patient hearing. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good evening, all. At the outset, I'd like to welcome and thank all of you for coming in this evening, and I thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to be a part of this great program, which I really cherish. Now, coming to the 10 steps, we all know the 10 steps has been revised in 2018, and some changes have come over the 10 steps to BFHI. And if you look closely, the first 2 steps are called critical management procedures. So that first step is again broken down to three smaller steps on which the IMS Act is coming in. And then you have the second step, which is the skills and knowledge imparted to the staff. So apart from that, all the rest 8 steps are actually key clinical practices. So what do you mean by key clinical practices? Are the main clinical practices which we should be all well-versed and skilled so as to promote breastfeeding. So now we know that statistics has taught us that improved breastfeeding practices would prevent at least an estimated 8,23,000 annual deaths. And we also have seen the effect of poor infant nutrition when Dr. Andakeshan sir showed us some pictures and how malnutrition can come in and impair development. So we need to create an empowering environment through policy and programs like this to help support exclusive and continued breastfeeding, for exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months and continued breastfeeding for 2 years. Now, the critical window is the first hours and day of a newborn's life are a critical window. Many times we don't think like that. We think that the baby is out. Once the baby is out, we can do some things with the baby, maybe keep them away from the mother for some time. And then we feel that the hospital is very busy. We may even take away the baby to another place where we feel it is safe and leave the baby for a day or 2 and then maybe bring the baby back or some hours. Therefore, we should understand, first of all, what that means. This is the critical window where the baby is trying to establish breastfeeding. For this, the UNICEF and WHO has come up with these 4 points: the immediate and uninterrupted skin-to-skin contact from birth and initiation of breastfeeding within the first hour of life, the exclusive breastfeeding that the infant receives only breast milk and no other foods or fluids, and the breastfeeding is responsive, not due to demand, but it's responsive according to cues of the baby, that is as early as often and as long as the baby wants, day and night, and also counseling the mothers on the risk of using artificial bottles, teats, pacifiers, and artificial formula feeds. So this is the main points that the WHO and UNICEF come up. Now, I just go through a case study to make it interesting for you all to understand how important the first hours of birth is. Now, Carol is a mother who had given after long labor, she gave birth to her first baby, and no one from the family was allowed to be with her. And then the baby was born. The baby was wrapped in a blanket and shown to the mother very briefly. Then she saw the baby had a birthmark between the eyes, and then it was taken away to the nursery because it was nighttime, because the mother has to sleep. Now, the staff in the nursery gave the bottle in infant formula for the next 2 feeds. And then when Carol's baby was brought into her room next morning, around 10 hours after birth. Now, the nurse told the mother to feed. So she took the baby and while lying down, but the nurse told her, you must always sit up to feed, don't lie down. So the mother sat up with great difficulty and the mattress was sagging and her back was bent. And she was already having pain from birth and it was very hurting. The nurse left the mother alone to feed the baby. Now she tried to help her baby to the breast and push the breast towards her breast mouth with her hand, but the baby was sleeping and very subtle, very weakly. Then the mother wondered if the birthmark on the face was caused by something she did wrong during the pregnancy. She was worried about what her husband and mother will say. The nurses were looking very busy, so she didn't want to really trouble them and ask them any questions. And the family was not allowed to visit until the afternoon. Now the nurse returned and saw that the baby was not at all sucking. And then she said, "How can you go home tomorrow if you can't feed your baby properly?" The nurse then took the baby back to the nursery. So now, in this case, we understand that there are a lot of things which normally doesn't happen to a mother. So definitely birth practices has an impact on breastfeeding. And that is why we are here to study these key clinical practices today. A mother requiring to lie down flat on her back during labor and delivery, it can cause discomfort and have an impact on ability to initiate breastfeeding. There's a lack of support by the staff, the people around her. Support is one of the biggest keys to early initiation and continuing feeding from medical staff and birth companions. And withholding food and fluid during labor will cause fatigue and dehydration in the mother and have an impact on her ability to initiate the breastfeeding. Then there are some medications that mother may feel sleepy, episiotomy, which causes pain, then intravenous lines, then the fetal monitoring and other interventions. Without any reason, if you're going to continue all that, that will also have an effect on the mother and then how she's going to breastfeed. Then wrapping the baby tightly after birth. Babies cannot use the reflexes and movement to begin their breastfeeding the very first hour. Then, of course, the main thing of separating the mother and baby after birth, I already told you that the mother and baby needs to be together to breastfeed early and often. Now, what are the birth practices during this case study must have interfered with the mother, Carol, to establish breastfeeding? First of all, Carol and the baby were separated for many hours, interfering with skin-to-skin contact, initiating breastfeeding. She and her baby should not have been separated unless medically necessary. Not having skin-to-skin contact interfered with her bonding with the baby and initiating the breastfeeding immediately after birth. And the mother noticed a baby's birthmark when nobody bothered to even explain to her, so she was worried about it. And the baby was given bottles of formula without even her consent. The baby did not get valuable colostrum in the first hour of birth. Baby was taken away to be kept in the nursery. And therefore, the breast did not receive any stimulation to make milk. And Carol, the mother, was not given any help to initiate or assist in breastfeeding. And the baby was full of formula and sleepy and does not want to suckle. And she needed some encouragement, reassurance, how to feed, but that was not there. So she felt uncomfortable to sit up, but she was asked to always sit up. This probably would have inhibited the oxytocin. We know that oxytocin release is important for the breast milk to be let down. Carol could have been encouraged to feed lying down also. Without support from family or friends, she felt tired and stressed. She was alone in the hospital with nobody to talk to her. And a supportive health worker, a companion, could have provided the support. The nurse further frightened her by saying she was not able to feed her baby and would not be able to go home. So altogether, the mother was worried, frightened, lonely, and does not know how to feed a baby. So she probably went home thinking she was not able to make milk and must feed her baby a breast milk substitute. So this is the end of the story where the mother lands up starting formula feeds. Now, I think when we sit and think about all these things, we will all understand why it is so important that we provide a proper atmosphere for the birth of a baby, and also that we assist her during these initial days, because these mothers and babies are coming to hospitals for delivery. And in Kerala, of course, we know most of it's institutional deliveries, and it is our responsibility to make sure that mother is assisted for breastfeeding. So if you look at the picture, what are the things which help the reflex? Think lovingly, sounds of baby, sight of baby, touching the baby, confidence. All this goes away if you take away the baby from the mother. And worry, stress, and pain and doubt definitely hamper the production of oxytocin. So, as health workers, as doctors, we need to know all these breastfeeding management skills. A lot of skills are given by WHO, mainly the listening and learning skills in a conversation with the mother, building up the confidence and giving her the support, engaging her in an antenatal conversation even before the birth occurs, immediate uninterrupted skin to skin, facilitating the breastfeeding within the first hour according to signals and cues, discussing with the mother how breastfeeding works, why it is important to give breast milk, getting her to latch the baby, helping her to respond to feeding cues, helping a mother who's having difficulty to manage and express milk. In a case of a preterm, a sick baby, help the mother to continue breastfeeding, and help a mother who needs some other fluids other than breast milk. Sometimes we do need when it's a dehydrated baby. And, preventing and resolving the difficulties like sore nipple, engorgement, etc. And finally, helping her to go home successfully and also implementing the code in a health facility. So these are the skills that we are supposed to take in. So I already have mentioned early initiation is what the WHO has started it. In these 10 steps, we learned the key clinical practice. The first step is skin-to-skin contact, promoting bonding, maintaining the warmth. It helps lowers infection and mortality. And there are so many benefits of early skin-to-skin contact, allowing the baby to find the breast on its own, helping the mother to bond with the baby, and a mother will most likely start to breastfeed and will even feed longer. Mother will more likely start to breastfeed and help the baby to even feed for longer times. Then it stimulates maternal milk production and supply, calms the mother and baby, helps to regulate all the vital signs, and the glucose levels are normal, which is especially valuable for low birth weight babies and premature, and enabling the colonization of the baby with microbes from the mother's skin, which is very vital, and all the mucosal surfaces and intestines are being colonized by mother's skin microbes, which helps to protect the baby from infection. These are the pictures of skin-to-skin contact. And there are risks of not practicing skin-to-skin contact. Risk of infection, difficulty in learning to breastfeed, unstable temperatures, shortens the duration of exclusive breastfeeding, maternal stress, more infant stress, okay, pain, and less desire for the mother to hold it. Out of the few of these I've mentioned here. Now, this is the time when the baby is also ready to breastfeed. Initial resting period followed by response to the scent of the breast. And there is a breast call, so beautifully done by the baby. We will show in a video now. And self-attachment will take place. Immediately, the baby may not, suck even. He will just try to be there. And by half an hour to 1 hour, the baby would have started breastfeeding. And there are special cases when it may not be possible, just a few suck. And not a really deep suck can happen in preterm babies. So, the first hour after delivery, encourage the mother to have a companion. Also ensure skin-to-skin contact for mothers who will not even breastfeed now, or they can do it later. But try to take the mother into the ICUs so that she'll have some skin-to-skin contact. If the baby is in a special care unit, that is what you should do. Continue skin-to-skin contact in the postpartum ward if the labor ward is busy. So ideally, the mothers should start skin-to-skin contact in the first hour, breastfeeding in the first hour, and the baby should be with the mother for even more hours of skin-to-skin contact. Special cases like cesarean also, it is possible. And we know the effects of cesarean on the mother and the baby. The mother is going to be frightened. She's going to be confined to bed for more days, deprived of energy, receiving the anesthesia and analgesia, she may be feeling sleepy. And the babies also be at high risk of not breastfeeding. And having some children may have breathing problems and they may also be sedated. So now let's go to see a nice video, an education video by the Stanford University, which tells us about the first hour of birth. And we will come back to ask some questions and answers on that.
What is the importance of having skin-to-skin contact? Which may be immediately after birth.
Yeah. So yes. So if somebody asks this question, so let's be ready with the answer. For the baby, actually the microbiome, isn't it? The biota is colonized with the mother's flora, so that what happens? The infection rates are low, and the temperature of the baby is maintained within the normal limits. And then, because of the hormonal surge, the breast milk comes more, and then breastfeeding is facilitated. Then the baby has the smell. So proximity to the breast, the orders, the breast massage with the baby's fist, placement of the tongue, all this facilitates breast milk to come more. And then the baby's instinctive stages, no? Then now we are going to study about those things also later. The feeding cues, we call it, how the baby gets up, stretches, okay? The pre-feeding behaviors, all this happens this actually produces more milk. And as long as the sir is asking me, as long as the baby is with the mother, sir, you actually promote more of milk. The mother is happy. So that is one important thing for the baby. So the thing for the mother would be, next slide, actually the placenta also expels in a timely manner following the surge of maternal oxytocin. So less postnatal anemia. Surge of oxytocin result in adequate uterine involution, secured milk production. Bonding is facilitated as the baby sees eye-to-eye contact is very good, and so the mother develops a bonding. And the mother's voice and movements are soft, and she shows patience in her attempts to latch. Some mothers actually, because of pain, they're angry, or they may even say later on breast. But now she is able to, because the baby is with her, she's happy, and the maternal feeling of well-being, oxytocin, endorphins are elevated, and fewer postnatal depressive symptoms and less maternal negligence and baby abandonment. Next.
So, how should we routinely implement immediate, uninterrupted, and safe skin-to-skin contact between mother and infant?
Ideally, yes. Yes. So ideally, even for cesareans and normal deliveries, we should be able to do this. And the baby is placed naked, prone on the mother's bare chest and not under the warmer. You are not supposed to take the baby to the warmer, clean the baby and come back. Actually, you should put the baby just like that. Okay. And the baby is not dried fully. This is just put on the baby. Only the head portion and the back are well dried to prevent evaporation. And the baby is covered with a dry towel. And while the baby is on the chest, the baby is being assessed. Okay, what are you going to see? Whether there is breathing. Normally, the saturation probe you can connect, and if there is a bradycardia. If there is any signs of instability, then you'll have to remove the baby. If the baby is stable, keep the baby as much as possible, even up to an hour of age. Yes.
So, why is response feeding important?
Yes, what do you mean by responsive feeding? I think we're now shifting from demand feeding to responsive feeding, because they find that in demand feeding, initially what we used to say every 2 hours you feed. Then we are going to see, then we started saying every time the baby cries you feed. No, actually crying is the last stage. Baby starts feeling hungry, it shows sort of sucking movements, starts stretching itself, showing that he's ready. So that's called responsive feeding. So the mother should learn to respond to her baby. That is called responsive feeding. And because of that, breastfeeding is facilitated following hormonal surge, and there is faster development and milk supply. And as the baby feeds, you feed responsively, actually there's less breast engorgement, because once the milk is full, the production will stop. Once the breast is empty, milk production will come again. And then the weight loss and gain are all within normal limits in the early postnatal period. There is less crying so that the mother doesn't get irritated or people around. Before the baby cries itself in the first stage, you have to feed, and avoiding triggering stress or elevated cortisol levels. And the baby learns to self-regulate the intake of milk.
Why in the first hour is important, and when the baby is ready?
This is again the important. Next slide. Because in the first hour, the hormones are all ready. And if you see, studies say if you're in a sick baby, for example, if you're not able to give feed within the 6 hours, the mother's production of milk comes down. So that is why we are so importantly saying that we have to feed within the first hour. It triggers the production of breast milk. It facilitates the progress of lactogenesis. So lactogenesis is a process we have just started. Then increases the uterine contractions. And because of the breast milk, the reduction of infant mortality is there. And mother is learning how to recognize the baby's cues. That means what is by cues? I'm again and again talking about cues is the signals of the baby. Baby's telling you, right to you, she's telling you, I'm hungry. So we will be having a session on that again. And if there's effective latch, the proper latch occurs, then milk production is more. So that is why the first hour is so important. And it is already called the golden hour.
So the next topic is about the Infant Milk IMS Act, the so-called Infant Milk Substitute Feeding Bottle and Infants Food Regulation, Production, Supply and Distribution Act. That is the full form. That is actually a history in the breastfeeding practices in the world. And after this advent of the IMS Act, the breastfeeding status of India has increased from 40% to almost 80 to 90%. The act has come around in 1992 and it was amended in 2003. So in 1981, the World Health Assembly adopts the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes. And the IMS Act came in 1992. This is an act to provide for the regulation of production, supply and distribution of infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles and infant foods with a view to the protection and promotion of breastfeeding and ensuring the proper use of infant foods and for matters connected therewith the incidental thereto. So there is mainly to protect and promote breastfeeding and ensuring the proper use of infant foods. Though we can start from the section 3, section 3 relates to the prohibition in relation to infant milk substitute, feeding bottle and infant foods. So no person shall advertise or take part in the publication of any advertisement for the distribution, sale or supply of infant milk substitutes, feeding bottle or infant foods. So no person should advertise the infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles and infant foods. Or section B is give an impression or create a belief in any manner that feeding of infant milk substitute and infant foods are equivalent or better than mother's milk. So nobody should commit that infant feedings are equivalent or better than mother's milk. C is the no person should take part in the promotion of infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles or infant foods. In short, it bans, section 3 bans the promotion and advertisement related to the infant feeds. So these are the initial types of advertisement that comes in the TV and newspapers that is banned now. Section 4, there is prohibition of incentives for use or sale of infant milk substitutes, feeding bottles or infant foods. So no person shall supply or distribute samples of infant milk substitutes or feeding bottle or infant foods or gifts of utensils or other articles. No person should contact any pregnant woman or mother of an infant and offer incentives of any other kind for the purpose of promoting the use or sale of infant milk substitutes or feeding bottle or infant foods. So no person should distribute the samples of infant milk substitute or feeding bottles. Or it prohibits giving incentives. Section 5, there is donation of infant milk substitutes relating thereto. So no person shall donate or distribute infant milk substitutes or feeding bottles or infant foods to any other person except to an orphanage. Any informational or educational equipment or material relating to infant milk substitutes are also banned, or feeding bottles or infant foods, provided that nothing in the clause shall apply to the donation or distribution subject to such conditions and restrictions as may be prescribed of such equipment or material through the healthcare system. Here, so one example is section 5, educational material and equipments. You cannot accept offering like the educational material of getting educational material from the infant milk companies. Section 6 is the information on the containers and labels of infant milk substitute or infant foods. It says that no person shall produce, supply or distribute any infant milk substitute or infant food unless every container contains a clear, conspicuous and easily readable and understandable manner the words important in capital letters. 1. The mother's milk is best for your baby in capital letters, and a statement that infant milk substitute or infant food should be used only on the advice of a health worker as to the need for its use and the proper method of its use. Third is a warning that infant milk substitute or infant food is not the sole source of nourishment for an infant. The D is the instructions for the appropriate preparation and a warning against the health hazards of its appropriate preparation should be there. The no container or label referred to in the subsection related to infant milk substitute or infant food shall have pictures of an infant or a woman or both. So our infant food bottles or infant food tins shouldn't contain the picture of an infant or a woman. And it shouldn't have a picture or other graphic material or phrases designed to increase the saleability of infant milk substitute or infant food. And we cannot use the word, it is a humanized or maternalized or any other similar words, it cannot be used. So you can see that there is a picture of a good looking children in the front in that this infant feeding sachet. So prohibit picture of a baby or mother or graphics to increase the saleability. So here you can see that there is important notice, mother's milk is the best for your baby. So all sachet or tin or bottles should contain this. And next, section 7 is educational and other materials relating to feeding of infants to contain accurate information. Every educational or other material, including advertisement, on related to promotion of infant milk substitute, feeding bottle, whether audio or visual, shall include clear information relating to the benefits and superiority of breastfeeding. No material shall be utilized to promote the use or sale of infant milk substitute or feeding bottle or infant foods. So it should ensure accurate information through education of materials. Then section 8 is related to healthcare system. No person shall use any healthcare system for the display of the placards or posters related to for the distribution of materials for the purpose of promoting the use or sale of infant milk substitute or feeding bottle or infant foods. So we shouldn't display the placards and posters related to infant milk substitution in the hospital or in the clinics. No person who produce, supply, distribute or sells infant milk substitute or feeding bottle shall make any payment or for any person who works in the healthcare system. So we cannot accept any payments or incentive from the infant food companies. So you can see that so this type of advertisement is banned actually. So we cannot make a placard like this with a, so you can see that infant food, this suppliers, Nestle, there you can see that name of the company. So these type of placards or advertisements should not be there in the medical shops or in front of the clinics. No person other than a health worker shall demonstrate the feeding an infant milk substitute or infant foods of a mother, and we have to clearly explain the hazards of improper use of infant milk substitute or feeding bottle. No person other than an institution or organization engaged in healthcare of the mothers, infants or pregnant women shall distribute infant milk substitute or feeding bottle to a mother who cannot resort to breastfeeding and who cannot afford to purchase infant milk substitute or feeding bottle, except in an orphanage. Section 9 is inducement to health worker for promotion of infant milk substitute. No person shall offer or give directly or indirectly any financial inducement or gift to a health worker. No producer or any other or distributor couldn't sponsor any association of health workers, including funding of seminar, meeting, conference, educational course, contest, fellowship, research work or sponsorship. So we cannot accept any materials, incentives from the breast milk substitute producing companies. So you can see a research sponsored by a company. You can see that research is sponsored by Nestle India Limited. You cannot accept any sponsorship from the food product, infant milk product company for any research. Or you can see this whole conference is sponsored by an infant company like Nestle. So you cannot accept any sponsoring of conferences from these food companies. and it bans commission on sales also. So no person shall sell or otherwise distribute any infant milk substitute or infant food unless it conforms to the standard specified for substitute of food under the Prevention of Food Adulteration Act. And what is the powers of an authorized officer? He can enter at any reasonable time in any factory, businesses, or where the infant milk substitute or feeding bottle or infant foods is carried on. And he may even seize each such substitute or bottle or food or container. And he can even give a penalty of 3 years imprisonment and 5,000 rupees. So if the milk product is given in good faith, in unavoidable condition, or otherwise the child's health is in danger, that is there is protection for health workers. So this is in short about the Infant IMS Act. Thank you.